Eliza Thorne had always prized efficiency over aesthetics. A structural engineer by trade, she viewed every object from a skyscraper to a simple screw as a study in load-bearing integrity. Her quiet life in the planned community of Willow Creek was shattered not by financial fraud, but by an edict of pure, petty tyranny. The board, led by the self-styled design Czar Vane, mandated the immediate replacement of all mailboxes. Every resident had to purchase the new, architecturally essential mailbox structure, a pretentious cast aluminum pillar costing an absurd $800 plus installation. Fines of $100 per day were threatened for non-compliance starting in 30 days. Eliza's mailbox was perfectly functional, its simple steel post a testament to durability. The replacement was flimsy, decorative, and, to Eliza's professional eye, structurally suspect. The HOA had contracted the cheapest labor available, a crew that installed the prefab units with hurried, inadequate concrete footings. Eliza, recognizing a losing battle, complied outwardly. She wrote the check for the $800, but the bitterness of the transaction fueled a cold, calculating resolve for retribution. She was going to use construction standards, the very language of her profession, to burn the HOA's monument down. Her initial investigation was subtle. While the installers worked on her curb, Eliza took core samples of the footing. Later that evening, she consulted her professional texts, the Federal Highway Administration's mailbox safety standards, the state's residential construction code, and, most critically, the Americans with Disabilities Act ADA requirements for clear ground space and accessibility. What she found was not just sloppy work, it was a professional liability goldmine. The HOA's chosen unit, the Willow Signature Classic, was decorative, but its installation violated two key areas. First, the cast aluminum pedestal, when installed by the unskilled crew using inadequate shallow footings, failed state-mandated structural integrity requirements for wind and impact resistance. A minor traffic incident could turn the entire thing into a shrapnel bomb. Second, and far more damning, the mailbox was non-compliant with ADA ground clearance and height standards. The HOA had simply purchased an expensive prop and installed it in a way that violated public law regarding accessibility. Eliza didn't rush to the board. She prepared a document. This wasn't a complaint. It was a formal, highly technical warning of imminent liability. She sent it via certified mail to Vane and the entire board. The document was titled, Notice of Non-Compliance and Potential Public Safety Hazard, Ref. Mandatory Community Mailbox Installation, Willow Signature Classic. It detailed the specific code sections violated, FHA the 1st of February 325 structural integrity. State Building Code R 403.1 footing depth. And, most emphatically, ADA Section 308 reach ranges and Section 305 clear floor space. She warned them that by mandating and executing a non-compliant installation on public-facing property, the HOA was assuming all potential future liability for injury, collision, or accessibility lawsuits. The board's reaction was pure hubris. Vane responded via a hastily drafted, generic letter from the Haas General Counsel, dismissively stating that architectural standards override minor technicalities and that Eliza's concerns were without merit and legally frivolous. They demanded she retract her unfounded claims. That letter was the final trigger. Eliza's plan moved into Phase 2, the monument. She hired a team of certified construction professionals, not the HOA's cheap labor, but a fully licensed, bonded, and insured contractor. She instructed them to install not just a mailbox, but a structure designed to meet every single safety and accessibility code the HOA's design violated. The result was enormous, a massive, poured concrete platform that ensured the required 5-foot clear ground space. With a carefully calibrated height mechanism for ADA-compliant reach ranges, and a footing sunk 4 feet deep, it looked less like a mailbox and more like a small, highly engineered monument to bureaucratic idiocy. It cost Eliza $5,000, but every receipt was meticulously filed. When the monument was complete, a massive, legally immaculate structure towering slightly over the fragile, decorative boxes of her neighbor's Vane's face, turned scarlet. He sent a strongly worded cease and desist, threatening immediate legal action over the grotesque, non-standard, and visually jarring structure. Eliza replied, not with a letter, but with 3 simultaneous formal submissions. First, she filed a formal complaint with the City Planning and Safety Department. Her submission included her technical report, photographs of the shallow footings, and a certified copy of Richard Vane's dismissal letter. She alleged that the HOA had illegally mandated the installation of public structures that violated state building codes, placing every resident at risk of injury from a potential vehicle impact. Second, she filed a formal complaint with the United States Postal Service USPS District Office. She cited the numerous violations of Title 39, CFR Section 111.3, Mailbox height and location standards, and specifically detailed how the entire aesthetic design, when mandated uniformly, was non-compliant with federal accessibility guidelines, thereby creating a systemic barrier to postal access for disabled residents. Third, she filed a claim in small claims court against the HOA for the $5,000 cost of her monument, arguing that the HOA's mandated, non-compliant, and dangerous structure forced her to invest in a legally compliant replacement to mitigate their own liability exposure. The effect was instantaneous and thrillingly dramatic. The city issued a stop work order on the entire mandatory replacement project, citing public safety concerns and improper permitting. The USPS followed up with a stern letter, stating that the entire mailbox replacement program was now deemed a systemic failure of access, threatening to cease mail delivery to the entire community until compliance was met. The board meeting that followed was a public demolition. The General Counsel, realizing the catastrophic scale of the liability, the fines, the forced removal, and the potential class action ADA lawsuit, turned on Chad and Richard Vane. The board was forced to halt the entire mandatory replacement project immediately. They had to issue a public apology and a full refund to every resident who had paid the $800. Furthermore, they were forced to pay Eliza the $5,000 for her ADA-compliant monument as a civil settlement to avoid further litigation. Richard Vane resigned in disgrace, his reign as design czar ending not in triumph, but in a humiliating defeat engineered by a structural engineer who understood that true design integrity is based not on aesthetics, but on the cold hard letter of the law. Eliza's monument stood as a permanent, oversized trophy to the power of professional retaliation.